Connecticut East This Week is supported by CT Examiner, a multi-award-winning online newspaper covering stories from across the state, from politics to business, health, education, and the arts. For just a $20 annual subscription, CT Examiner will let you know what's happening where you live. ctexaminer.com, reporting and supporting what matters. And SCAD, the Southeastern Council on Alcoholism and Drug Dependence, providing recovery services since 1966. We believe in second chances and in the strength of every individual to recover. Now in our 60th year, we remain dedicated to growth and innovation. To get involved, visit scad.org to learn more. He's a James Beard award-winning chef and she's an award-winning sommelier. We catch up with husband and wife team David and Kathleen Standridge of Mystic to find out what they're serving up now. Plus, we take a look at other stories making the headlines from around the region. This is Connecticut East This Week. Hello, I'm Brian Scott-Smith. It's been just over a year since David Standridge won Best Chef in the Northeast from the James Beard Awards, and since then he and his wife Kathleen have continued to innovate and bring fresh new ideas to downtown Mystic with new high-end accommodation offerings and a twist on the fish camps of old with a brand new restaurant. I sat down with them at the Shipwright's Daughter in Mystic, just one of their businesses, for a catch-up chat. Joining us for the second time on our podcast, award-winning chef David Standridge and Kathleen Standridge, the husband and wife team that are making waves in Mystic and have been for quite a while. Welcome back to you both. Thank you for your time because we know you're incredibly busy people. David, I want to just mention again, and you're probably bored hearing it, the award. It's been a year actually since we spoke to you, and obviously just a little bit over a year that you got it. I was doing a little bit of research. You are only the second chef to get Top Chef in the Northeast in Connecticut. The last was 2006.
It's been a while. Quite a drought, really. Surprising to me there's so many great chefs in Connecticut that it's been so long, and hopefully just having one winner maybe kind of refocuses the foundation on everything that's going on in Connecticut.
How has it been since we last spoke to you? Because we're going to get into this. Huge amounts seem to have happened. Yeah. But, just give us a quick elevator pitch of some of the stuff that sort of happened over the year.
I don't know, life-changing experience, really, in a lot of different ways, but we've just continued to be very, very busy. And we've been ready to grow for a while, but we just needed a tipping point, and the James Beard Award was certainly a tipping point for us. So we opened a new restaurant this year, Mystic Fish Camp, just recently, at a building that we have owned for a couple of years. And then our hospitality group, Heidenreich Hospitality, opened a new building next door, the Stanton House, which is really beautiful. Mm-hmm. And then we're continuing to work on our book, which is coming out in 2027. Kathleen,
talk to us as well, because you are part of this dynamic duo. Wine and all that good stuff that has to pair well with the incredible food that obviously is whipped up here by Mr. Standridge. So give us a little insight into how your world has been in the last year.
It's very funny. I started out kind of as the consultant, really. There was no plan for us ever to really work together. I started as a consultant on the wine list when somebody fell out.
In an emergency situation.
In an emergency. I said, well, I'm highly qualified. I think I can help. As that job has grown, I now no longer do the wine list as much. I consult sometimes, but we have a fantastic wine director now. And more where my role has taken me is more in creative direction and what we're doing next in all these creative ways, in community ways, and what we're offering and how we're offering it. So 1970s fish camp summer would fall under my creative direction, that kind of thing. I think this is very fun, and I think we should go there.
We will be talking, as I say, about the two big projects and the book in a little while. Do you think that the success that you both have and continue to have is to do with this very hands-on approach? And I'm going to sort of reference that. We've seen restaurants come and go, even here in Mystic. As I drove in today to do this interview with you, there's a restaurant near Mystic Pizza, which has actually changed hands. It was a brewery. It's now become a restaurant. We've seen other ones, close and open. Is your secret sauce the fact that you keep it so personal, you keep an eye on things to the best that you can, What is the secret sauce, do you think?
I think the stories that a lot of what we do come out of our personal lived experience. And so those kinds of things, like I went to summer camp when I was a kid, and those were formative times for me. So they made a very lasting impression on me as an adult. And trying to find a way of reclaiming childhood joy was so personal, and I thought that was something that so many people could enjoy, not just myself, that I thought, how can we give that experience in a restaurant? How can we have closer communication, these times of real companionship and joy? How can we find a way to do that in a restaurant? And I think that's just a truly beautiful thing, and it is so deeply personal.
Creating something special takes a lot of people, and I think it does have to be really personal. It has to really come from, like Kathleen and I and myself, this restaurant's like a lot of my soul, And I think that's what gives it sort of an authenticity when it's very personal like that, and especially when you're staying true to ingredients that are local and things that are coming from like makers in the area. It just feels real, and I think that really has led to a lot of its success. And then now that we're growing, it definitely is a different dynamic of how do we keep it that way when we are not. I'm not in this restaurant every single hour anymore like I used to be. And really what it comes down to is that we have a lot of really talented people that we've been lucky to attract who've been with us really from the beginning. And we have such a great team that now they're starting to put themselves into the restaurant in the same way that we have to get it going. And so it can really just kind of keep going. But I think that's the longevity, is when people who are here are really pouring everything into it, and the ties with the community are really solid, it stays special.
Other than that, of course, the food industry has its challenges. We've heard recently that here in the United States, they're not growing as much beef as they have for quite a while. And we're even talking big states like Texas have got smaller herds, which means that the price of beef has shot up. How do you deal with those challenges? Because people still want their steaks and their ribeyes and whatnot. But where's the cutoff point? Because the price must be killing everybody.
It's expensive, but I mean, it's a great time to be a fish restaurant for one thing. So that works in our favor. But I think one of the things we dealt with this during the pandemic as well, where everything was getting super expensive, the supply chains basically broke. And what we found is because we were so locally focused, we did not have those issues. Our price of chicken didn't go up because it's the same farmer. It's right down the street. And those things really help. Staying local really has advantages in that sense. When you see these big price fluctuations, those are national. That's the big food system that's breaking. And the big food system is very good at being efficient, but it's also quite fragile. And the local food system is much more durable. So local beef hasn't really gone up. It was already expensive because it's local and grass-fed, but those prices have been more stable and they don't have these spikes. So I think you pay a little more, but you do get stability and you get better quality, and it pays off in the end.
Let's talk about Stanton House, part of the campus, if that's not sort of like lowering the tone at all. But beautiful buildings here, 6 buildings here in the vicinity, and Stanton House, this new 10 suites, a penthouse event space. Talk to us about it, Kathleen, because I'm sure you had a big hand in it as well.
Yeah, this was a project that I came on sort of in the middle. My role translated from Shipwright's Daughter to growing into the hospitality company and the hotel at large, and now Mystic Fish Camp. So I came kind of midway through the construction process, but I think a lot of my contributions have more to do with touch points and certain sort of offerings for guests. Some of the vendors that we use in terms of high-end amenities, like the soaps that we use or the coffees that we source, or any of the local vendors that we use, and why we use those people in this beautiful building. We had so many amazing rooms to offer, but what we thought we could grow in, and as Mystic grows, we thought we really could use something with a higher-end offering. We have amazing family-friendly options. We have incredible historic buildings, but there really is more of a demand in Mystic now more than ever for a more luxury premium offering, and that's where we saw some room for growth in that building.
Which is interesting you say that, because the Whalers Inn is beautiful. It's hardly standard. So how do you elevate beyond what's already considered, I would say, quite high-end?
Even at our entry level rooms, I would say that our standards are so high. So that's the cleanliness. The front desk staff is always going to be top notch when you're at the Whalers Inn. We thought we could give something more with a living room space and larger beds and this deluxe money shot river views. And
that was a lot of it. I think, Amanda Arling, our company
Yes.
president, who's really developed the lodging side of this business amazingly and really headed that project. We have at the Whalers Inn a really great variety of rooms. There's affordable rooms and there's luxury rooms, but we really didn't have that very special luxury suites. We had a very few of those. We really have one or two on the 5 buildings. So we wanted to add that element. And we had the opportunity to buy this building next door, which overlooks the river, and just the views were so killer, and it's perfect to just kind of step up the luxury a little bit and to have a higher end offering that really is special.
It's also giving you 40 guests event space as well. And
Exactly,
of course, they get the honour of having David Standridge supply the food. I mean, talk to us about that, because, 40 doesn't sound a lot, but it is.
It's great, yeah. It's 40, that's kind of the perfect rehearsal dinner size.
Yeah.
We get a lot of birthday parties, and all the food comes out of shipwrights. But also, we do offerings from Mystic Fish Camp there as well for more casual, fun stuff, where if you want that kind of vibe, we can do that as well. And it's a great space. It's beautiful. It's called the Barber Room for Lake Harry Barber, who was a longtime employee of this company, who unfortunately passed a couple of years ago. And it's gorgeous. And you also can do, with the penthouses, these kind of cool combo parties where you rent a penthouse, have a cocktail party up there, and then come downstairs for dinner, which is really fun.
As we record this interview with you both, we have just entered fall, and obviously winter will be with us fairly soon. How do you deal with the changes in the seasons? Because, again, I'm guessing that brings its own challenges as well. So give us some insight, both of you, from the wine to the food, and how you deal with those changes of season.
The food is challenging. We've been lucky this year. We haven't had any hurricanes. We had one maybe offshore, but usually we go through this cycle of no fish, because we only get super local fish. So if there's a storm, no one's fishing. So there'll be 4 or 5 days at a time if there's a big storm where there's no one coming in, and we have to kind of be very creative. There's definitely been times in this restaurant that's primarily a seafood restaurant where we have had 0 fish because I'm not willing to go and get fish from New York or Boston. So that's kind of challenging. We having to tell that story, which I actually like telling that story because everyone says they use local fish and most people don't really. And when there's a huge storm offshore and we have no fish and people say, well, so-and-so's got fish, I'm like, wow. Where is it coming from? There's a hurricane.
See,
so
again,
I love having that conversation. But
that's interesting, because I was going to ask you that, and now you've answered it, because I was going to say to you, what is local, and you've answered it. It's basically Connecticut.
Yeah, for us, we're at the very tail end of Connecticut over here on the coast of Rhode Island, or on the border of Rhode Island. We try not to go outside of 20 miles for where fish is actually landed. And where they go catch it is up to them. But mostly Stonington Town Dock is where we get 90% of our fish, and occasionally westerly work with some local fishermen. But when the weather's bad, and it's over until it's better.
Talk to us, Kathleen, about obviously the wine, because of course that gets affected by things as well. People just think, oh, there's plenty of wine, but no, you have a drought, or you get some sort of fungus that grows on the vines, and suddenly the wine
definitely.
industry is in trouble.
The one thing that I think it takes the pressure off of that, certainly for me, for our wine director, Ryan McGinnis, who is fantastic, and we are so lucky to have him as an expat from the L'Atelier de Gilles Robuchon. One of the really amazing things about that, having a global list for us, and I know that sounds funny as a hyper-local fish place, but having a global wine list, we are able to, if, for example, Burgundy has a bad year, we can source more domestic. I'm from upstate New York, which is, I think, the second largest production under vine for grapes.
Oh, wow.
In the States, I believe. It's been a while since I checked that metric. But we always try to have things from our region. This area is not really well suited climate-wise for growing grapes. So if you're going to have a wine list, you have to look outside your immediate area. Although we try our best to keep everything really local and domestic as well. But having a more diverse list means you get, if somebody has a bad year in this part of the world, somebody certainly is having a fantastic year in another part. So, and that's more about picking and choosing and trying and seeing what is coming up on top this year at any given moment.
We've bounced around it throughout the interview, so we're going to finally talk about Mystic Fish Camp. You mentioned it at the top of the interview. It is an extraordinary restaurant in a former toy store, which also, I believe, the Chamber of Commerce were in there for a little while as well. You said it's like it went back to the 70s sort of thing. So talk to us a little bit more about that, because to me, it's a fish and chip shop. And that's not being rude, but,
definitely.
I visited it and it struck me as a good old classic British fish and chip shop.
Oh, yeah.
So talk to us more about it.
So fish camps traditionally are what happen when fishermen go out to sea and they come back and they land on shore and they will set up camps, a fish camp. And they will share the spoils of their labor with their family and their friends and their communities. And there was so much about that idea that it was like you're under a spell and you absolutely love that. And so I remember one day you kind of came to me and you said, I don't know if this is a great idea, but what do you think about calling it Mystic Fish Camp? And I was like, yes, immediately, no questions.
Off and running.
Off and running. And I think the nice thing about working so closely and being partners together is we're always gassing each other up. And I said, that's really amazing. But what if we took everything we know about fish camps and we married that with the nostalgia and endless summer of those like 1970s classic American summer camp days? And how exciting that felt. And both of us, once we kind of opened that door, it was, can we do lunch boxes? How can we we do ringer tees and raglan sleeves? And it was like a flood of ideas.
You two don't hang about, so how quickly did that all happen? Because I'm guessing it probably happened pretty quickly, and like permitting was like, come on, move.
It actually did. We had a lot of time because we actually bought this building 3 years ago. And 3 years ago, we were just trying to get Shipwright's Daughter going. And immediately, we came up with this idea. As soon as our group bought this building, we're like, let's do this. And they were like, well, slow down. Hang on. Let's get this restaurant going first. And then that's why we did the Chamber of Commerce in there for a while. We had a clothing store that rented there for a while. And when we finally got the go ahead to actually do it, a lot of these ideas are even fleshed out. So
yes.
Kathleen had time to go down all of her summer camp rabbit holes and, all these crazy marketing ideas, which are amazing. And then obviously once we got permits, we hit the gas as fast as possible. But
yeah.
So, of course, there is a tie-in with the clothes store that was there. They are now further down in Mystic, and it's the Just Mystic brand. Yeah. That's a brother and sister company, and they've just opened up in Portsmouth, New Hampshire as well. They have done the clothing for this. So talk to us about that.
Oh, my gosh. They were amazing to work with. Rob and Amanda, I honestly had gone to like friends in New York who are in production, and I was banging on doors because I wanted something very specific and authentic and high quality, and I kept getting like people laughing in my face. And finally, I don't know why it took me so long. It occurred to me that Just Mystic was down the street, and so I took my first meeting with Rob and Amanda, and I think I showed up with like a whole armful of vintage clothing. And I said, hey, this is what I really want to do, and I think it's really important, and this could be really fun, from tube socks to tin lunch boxes and ringer tees. And they said, yeah, let's go, which was, at the time, nobody had said that to me. And I had talked to at least 10 different kinds of people to help me in this mission, and they were amazing in that. And the quality is so high.
That's what I think really sets their brand apart, too.
Yes.
I mean, they do these like really classic like souvenir shop type T-shirts and stuff, but they're so nice. And it's the sweatshirt that you really want. It's a T-shirt that you really want to wear. It's not just printed, on something cheesy. They do such an amazing job.
Let's get to the menu of Mystic Fish Camp, because I've been there. I've eaten there. It is superb. I had the classic fish fry. And I had fish I've never had in my life. And on the day I was there, it was sea robin was the one that was actually.
That's a good one.
Yeah, and the young lady behind the counter explained it to me, and I was looking forward to it. A little bit of a sweeter type of fish, still quite like flaky. So again, this whole sort of turning the fish camp on its head, because although the food is there and things people will recognize, you're using again these ingredients which people may be experiencing for the first time.
Yeah, I mean, that's our whole philosophy of fish, is that we want to use a lot of underutilized species. The whole point of sustainability, really the driving force for me in sustainable seafood is diversity. The problem is we eat the same fish over and over again, and we're really creatures of habit, and we need to just broaden our palates. And the funny thing is that all this fish is delicious. Like, people are scared to try new fish. They all taste amazing, and they all taste like fish, surprisingly.
But when you say that, the interesting thing about fish is, and this is always a weird thing when people say, "Oh, I don't like fish because it tastes fishy." And not all fish is fishy.
When people say fishy, they usually mean old fish. And so I think anytime you're getting high quality fish, regardless of the species, if it's fresh and nice, it doesn't taste quote unquote fishy. And so we use a bunch of different species. The fried fish is always something like a light flesh fish that's going to be light in flavor and delicate. The sea robin is awesome. It's like one of my favorite fish. It's really been a throwaway fish for so long. It's still not targeted, and it's something that comes to us like it's basically bycatch. So, the fishermen catch it. They keep it because they might as well, but there's really no market for it. So for us to get it out there, and our fish changes almost every day, sometimes multiple times a day.
Is this almost like a situation of monkfish years ago? Nobody wanted to touch monkfish, and then suddenly chefs got hold of it. It became super high-end. I mean, it's not cheap anymore. Lots of people use it. I mean, is this basically where you're going with this? Because, like I said, I'd never heard of sea robin, and it was gorgeous.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing about monkfish is there's always been a fishery for it. So it's an established thing. It's a regulated species. A lot of the species we're using are unregulated species that no one's ever really going to probably start a fishery for. It's mostly all bycatch. So, dogfish, sea robin is another example. Those are fish that no one's really targeting. They're just catching them. A lot of the other fish, though, that are just a little bit off the mark, like monkfish is still one that we're really pushing. We do poor man's lobster rolls, which is not lobster, it's monkfish. And it's still less expensive than lobster, and it's way more sustainable.
Have you been surprised by the success? Because it's only been open since, beginning of August?
Yeah, really, Labor Day weekend was our first weekend.
And it's like, it's gone crazy.
Yeah, we're doing really well. I think we're going to we have some things happening in the next year. We're going to keep evolving, and it's going to be really amazing. I can't wait for the next summer. We kind of got open late in the fall. It's not really when we wanted to open. Construction was hard. But next summer is going to be crazy.
And the actual venue itself is unrecognizable as well. Because, like I said, I remember it before it was Mystic Fish Camp. You've done such a beautiful job. I mean, you walk in and it's just gorgeous. I mean, it's got your stamp all over it. I will say it looks incredible. There's a few chairs, but it's a stand-up and eat thing. Or you can, of course, take your food away as well. So that's interesting, because that seems to have become a little bit of a trend of sort of like standing up and eating your food.
I like it. Actually, I went to this when we were in kind of the development phase. We went to New York for a James Beard thing or something, and I stopped at this pizza place, and it had all these stainless steel standing height counters, and it was just so bustling, and it gives it a fun vibe, especially when it gets crowded in there, where it feels more like a party because people can kind of walk around than having everybody seated in their little things. And it's a little bit family style, where there's like bigger tables and a big counter space where you can stand. And I think when you're in seats, it feels like, oh, can I sit at this table with you guys? But when you're standing, I feel like everyone can just kind of gather around tables and feel like it's a big communal thing.
Yeah, absolutely, because we were standing and it was just fabulous. And I love all this, like the containers that it all comes in as well, and the sauces and fish butter, as I refer to it. You've got all these different versions of the food. It is incredible. We've just got enough time to quickly mention, obviously, about the book. So give us the heads up on the book.
So we're working on a book. The working title right now is called Tide to Table, and it's a sustainable seafood cookbook. Basically, it's pretty comprehensive, all the species that we use in the Northeast, and it's going to be out in 2027, being published by Rizzoli.
Excellent stuff. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you both. Continued success, and God knows what you're going to be doing next, but we'll try and make sure it's not a year before we start chatting to you again. David and Kathleen Standridge, thanks for being on Connecticut East this week.
Thank you.
That's awesome. Thank you.
And if you haven't visited Mystic Fish Camp yet in downtown Mystic and tasted what they have on their menu, then visit their website for menu details and opening times at mysticfishcamp.com. Time now for a look at other stories making the headlines this week, supported by ctexaminer.com, reporting and supporting what matters. The Connecticut Port Authority and construction firm Kiewit have reached an agreement of $11.3 million over disputed costs for work on State Pier in New London. Kiewit originally said they were owed almost $35 million for extra work they'd carried out on the project, a figure the Port Authority disagreed with. Paul White-Scarver is the chairman of the Port Authority and says the agreement hasn't added anything to the cost of State Pier.
The $311 million doesn't change. All that is within the escrow and what we've put in the budget for this project. So there's no change in the bottom line. It's just a matter of maybe we use some of the interest that was in the escrow account while we've been waiting around to do this. Maybe there's other ways that we can move funds around to make us meet that requirement that we're going to provide Kiewit. It's a positive outcome for everybody. The bottom line doesn't change. And quite frankly, I think everybody is pleased how it came out.
White-Scarver says he wants people to see State Pier as an asset to the region.
If we had not partnered with Offshore Wind and Ørsted, Eversource, the pier would still be looking like it was before. And we've gained roughly 11 acres of storage or flat space where we can do a heck of a lot more than what we could before. You know, we could do lumber. We did lumber before, but now we got 11 more acres we could put lumber on the pier. I just wish people would open their minds, realize what a great advantage it is for southeastern Connecticut.
State Pier has cost around $311 million to redevelop as a hub for the offshore wind business and has been controversial due to its escalating costs from an original $93 million and more recently for two major structural issues that involved incorrect soil fill and a tow wall that was incorrectly built. Farmers in Connecticut could soon be taking to the skies using specialized drones to help them manage their farms and look after their crops. Almanacs, a Connecticut-based precision agriculture technology company, is providing drone services that can do everything from spreading seeds in fields to applying pesticides to crops. Mike Quick is one of the co-founders of Almanacs and says the use of this new high-tech might encourage people to consider a farming career.
There's a declining amount of young people in agriculture, and trying to get them involved through tools like this, I actually see an increase in agricultural jobs, making it more accessible to people in computer science degrees, agronomists, botanists who are interested in the crossover domains between these technologies.
The drones are less expensive than traditional farm equipment that can run to hundreds of thousands of dollars. Quick says fitting different types of cameras to the drones gives them exceptional sight.
You can identify relative plant health. So on that same notion, maybe they need more fertilizer, maybe they need more whatever it is that they might need. You can get it to them earlier in the process instead of waiting for a visual sign to come up. We have done some exploratory mapping with smaller, very dense farms in Connecticut that are about 2 to 5 acres. And as part of that, we were seeing seeds coming out of the ground before you could see them with your eyes using the multispectral data that we had available to us.
The drones can also help with creating 3D maps and terrain modeling of farmland that can help a farmer determine what crops will grow best in a specific area. In the Connecticut Examiner this week, Groton City officials are scrambling to find a way to reimburse millions of taxpayer dollars after dipping into the capital fund balance to pay for more than $6.7 million in overrun for a seawall construction project. Groton City's plan to cover the multi-million-dollar cost for what Mayor Keith Hedrick called a re-engineering of the replacement Shore Avenue seawall through a state grant collapsed on September 30th when it was not chosen for a state community investment fund grant. Hedrick said what initially started out as a $4.1 million project to replace a failing seawall has ballooned to a project that will cost at least $10.7 million. You can read reporter Ali Lemaster's full article on this story at cityexaminer.com. And Old Lyme Board of Education decided recently to send nearly $700,000 back to local taxpayers rather than set aside the money for the district's reserve fund. After a year of substantial budget increases, board members gathered around a projected spreadsheet weighing different scenarios before putting $400,000 into the so-called undesignated fund. That's 1% of the budget, half of what state law now permits schools to keep for future spending. That decision means Old Lyme residents will see a credit of about $567,000 applied to next year's budget, while Lyme taxpayers will be credited roughly $125,000, offsetting a portion of expected future increases. Read Francisco Uranga's full report on this story at cityexaminer.com. That's all from us for this edition. Do send us your questions and story ideas to the show via our website at connecticut-east.com or Facebook or Twitter at Connecticut East and on Instagram at Connecticut East This Week. And you can listen to the show again on our social platforms, on demand, and by asking your smart speaker to play Connecticut East This Week podcast. And please like, follow, and share on your social media too. I'm Brian Scott Smith. Thank you for listening.